Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session on Masterclass on Overview of Robotic Applications in Smart Manufacturing. In today's event, you will discover recent advances in the human-safe industrial robotics in smart manufacturing, new ways to program and achieve collaborative working in manufacturing cells, and also witness a live demo and a lot more. This event is organized under the series of Bharat Ka Amrit Mahotsav, which is a series of events organized by the Government of India to commemorate the 75th anniversary of independence and has been launched on March 12 to commemorate 91 years of Dandi March. The Mahotsav is being celebrated as a people's movement across the country. Our organization, IITD AIA Foundation for Smart Manufacturing, is a collaborative organization between IIT Delhi and Automation Industry Association, supported by the Department of Heavy Industry. We have created a common engineering facility center that supports and develops technology for the Indian industry and helps with the right understanding and implementation of concepts of smart manufacturing. FSM imbibes technologies from leading companies in Europe, Japan, US, and India, and offers an integrated experience for prospective users, consultant integrators, and academicians. All these activities are carried out under a large banner of Samarth Udyog that stands for Smart Advanced Manufacturing and Transformation Hubs. Samarth Udyog is a national platform created by the Department of Heavy Industry, Government of India, for increasing the competitiveness in the Indian capital goods sector through smart manufacturing. Today's session is going to cover these following points that you will undergo while the session is in progress. Let me now welcome our master trainer, Professor Sunil Jha. Professor Sunil Jha did his PhD in manufacturing science from IIT Kanpur and has been engaged in teaching and research on manufacturing processes, computer-aided manufacturing and industrial automation since last 13 years. He has developed new unconventional super finishing processes and filed 8 patents. Few of them have been successfully commercialized. Before joining IIT Delhi, he worked with Tata Motors Jamshedpur in the area of CAD/CAM and was engaged closely in digitization of engine components and foundry tooling development. Currently in the capacity as Director IITD AIA Foundation for Smart Manufacturing, Dr. Jha is closely supporting manufacturing industry in absorbing new technologies to make them ready for the next industrial revolution. I would now request Dr. Sunil Jha, sir, to please take over the floor and throw some light on the students, the teachers, the faculty members, and the audience, and give us an overview on the smart technologies. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Naman, for this introduction. I hope my slides are visible.
Yes, sir.
Without any overlapping anywhere?
Yes, sir. It's fine.
Okay, good. So very good morning to all of you, and thanks for joining this event that we are hosting right now. So next 2 hours, we are trying to spend time in understanding this new technology, which I'm sure most of you are all fascinated with this terminology of robotics, actually, because I know that many of you have a lot of passion to do robotics as a career. So today I will be just giving you an overview of the robotics as a domain, and I'll also discuss about the possible applications in manufacturing and the kind of work we are doing in this foundation at IIT Delhi. So this is our foundation where we keep on working in exploring the various technologies which are going to be implemented to make the factory smart. And this center is working since last 3 years now. And we have this center available for industry as well as the people from academics to come and interact with us. So we have various programs through which we are interacting with the industry as well as the people from academics. So this series, what we are going through right now is a masterclass series. And out of this series, we have first the awareness events that are being conducted earlier also. So this overview of the robotics application in manufacturing is one of the awareness event that we are hosting today. And post that, we are also running a lot of learning sessions where we are giving an opportunity to do hands-on learning on these technologies so that we will be ready to implement some of these technologies in the manufacturing setup. So as a part of the current program, we are doing this overview of robotics application in manufacturing, and there are FSM 201 series of the courses which we are conducting for a duration of a month. I will explain about the robotics course in the end. And probably this will be leading towards the expert in the domain of smart manufacturing. We are conducting these sessions and the training programs in the form of a blended learning, where we have live sessions like this. And whenever we have the learning courses also, we have these live sessions conducted every week. And we also have our own e-learning platform through which we'll be sharing all the knowledge that we are creating in the FSM. Will also be providing in a platform to do in a self-learning through the content, as well as the exercises can be done on this e-learning platform. We have some of the live demos connected onto this platform. And so whenever it is required, we normally give the participants an overview of the live facility that we have at FSM. Also, we made our training kits, which is the in the industrial state-of-art hardware available for the participants to do live experiments on these kits also. And these can be made accessible remotely. And all these courses have a component of the project, which we normally conduct. And there's a evaluation through various quizzes being conducted during the course. So this is the blended learning method we follow for all our FSM 20 courses, where we'll be conducting the live sessions, the labs, as well as the evaluation onto the platform. And you're supposed to complete a 10 hours project in these courses. So this is our domain, that is fsmskills.in, and there are a lot of courses we are running on the domain of smart manufacturing on the various technologies. And those who are interested, they can register themselves. Sorry. Yeah, so they can register themselves onto the platform, and you can create your own account with your email ID as a username. And there are certain courses available for the awareness. Those who missed the previous awareness sessions, they can also get benefit about these courses. So if you are interested, you can drop an email on this admin@fsmskills.in, and we will enroll you in some of these courses. Good. So today's session is more about the robotics, and let me just give you a quick glimpse of how the robotics pathway to be followed. And I'm sure that most of us who have started this journey of the robotics, it all started with a robotics hobbyist or the enthusiast. So this is the first platform, first level of learning happens. Either you can start this in the days of the school, or you will be subsequently coming to the institutes and then building some kind of robots, which looks like these robots developed through the mechanical structure, integration of the electrical motors and the controllers onto that, putting some basic sensors. So that is the first end learning that those have interest in the robotics domain used to go through that. And that excites a lot of passion to learn more about the robotics. So with this starting point, then there's another domain of robotics research, which involves a lot of development of the algorithms, the new hardware, new electromechanical systems, new controllers, sensors, processing that sensing information, more computational algorithm for the perception building, motion control algorithm. So that is the domain where such as the career, and they can go for higher studies in this domain. And there's a third domain here, which is of the industrial robotics, and which is basically the applications of the real robotics in the manufacturing. So now these three activities which I have shown on the slides have a different perspective of learning. So you can learn building robots. You can go through the basic understanding of the mechanical platforms, the motion control part, what all embedded hardware is required, what all sensors are required. But that is more towards creating a robots. And when we talk about the robotics research, is more about creating these robots as well as programming these robots for the different environments, which are known and unknown environments. and you can find them a lot of applications in the space research also these days on the robotics, because robots supposed to operate in a completely unknown environment. Now, when we talk about the domain of industrial robotics, the today's session, I'm trying to emphasize more on what exactly you should know about the robotics and what kind of learning will help you in getting ready for developing solutions for the industrial robotics, which can be deployed in the manufacturing setup. So I will be covering the brief understanding about these type of robots which are suitable for manufacturing in industrial scenario, and then we'll also take up some of the examples, the nature of the project which we used to do, and where the industry is looking forward that more people should be get trained in implementing this industrial robotics. So today's session outline is that I will just give you some glimpse about the robotics in manufacturing. What are the possible operations that robots are supposed to do? There are different types of robots. We'll give you the brief idea about the nomenclature of the robots, the various axes of motion. Then what are the key components of the robotics implementation? Now, this is more towards the implementation of a robotic projects in the industry. So what exactly you should know about, what are the other components that you need to know? So I will just brief about those elements over here. There are certain components which are making a robot suitable for performing multiple functions. So what are these hardware that I will explain to you? How a manufacturing robotic cell can be designed. What are the key elements of the design of a manufacturing cell? Because when we talk about the application of robots in manufacturing, robot is just one piece of the hardware in the whole manufacturing cell. There are many more items or many more components to be integrated together, and there's a lot of scope of integration of the automation with the robotics. Then only the cell will be ready to perform in the environment where you started learning the basic embedded C programming, and then you will be getting familiar with the controller hardware like Arduino, Raspberry Pi, and these are some of the beginners platform where you start learning the programming part. And all the robot hobbyists and the enthusiasts, they start learning programming robot from that perspective itself. Now, when it comes to the deployment of the robotics in the manufacturing, and whenever we are talking about the industrial robotics, what kind of programming you need to learn? What kind of programming environment will be more suitable for deployment of these applications? Because there is not much scope for error. And when the system are supposed to be deployed and they are running seamlessly 24/7, that is the expectation from the platform. So we need to go within a more robust environment in terms of the hardware as well as the software environment for programming these robots. So how that can be further integrated together with the industrial automation. So I will be just giving you some glimpse of the same. Then there are 3 use cases I will be discussing, which we have developed at FSM at IIT Delhi. Multi-process robotic cell for assembly operations. The robotic welding cell for the multi-robot coordinations for welding, and then the use case of the autonomous mobile robot with collaborative robot. So these are the content that we will be discussing in next 1 hour, 1.5 hours. So let's try to understand the definition of the industrial robot, because I will be specifically talking about this industrial robots. The definition by ISO 8373. What exactly is an industrial robot? So whenever it comes to the visualization of the robot, most of us have a visualization of articulated robot or maybe the humanoid, that kind of a perception we used to have about the robots. Towards any automatically controlled, reprogrammable, multi-purpose manipulator. So we are talking about a manipulator. Now, how it looks like, it all depends on what kind of functions we want to perform this with the help of this manipulator. But we will be able to reprogram for various functions this manipulator, which is automatically controlled through the program. And this manipulator will be having multiple axes, so 3 or more axes, which can be either fixed, so that you will have the fixed robots performing certain operations during manufacturing, or it could be in a mobile robot which will be moving on the shop floor or the manufacturing floor, and we will then deploy this for a suitable industrial applications. So that is the complete content definition of the industrial robots. So whatever we will be discussing, will be trying to understand the various facets of this definition itself. Now, when it comes to the industrial robot systems, again, the same standards also define what are the building blocks of an industrial robot. So whenever you are thinking about manufacturing robots or building robots or learning the robotics technology to make these robots, you need to understand what are the key building blocks for these robots and the robotic devices. So the main important component over here is the robot's brain, that is the controller. And this standard defines that this controller is basically having a set of logic control being implemented along with the power function and the motion control. So primarily you will see that there are two types of controls being implemented in any of the robotic controller, which is the motion controller as well as the logic control that should be implemented. Apart from that, it houses the various power stages for the motion to be accomplished. We will learn that what are the basic elements of the motion control. And then it should also be get interfaced to the various other hardware in the environment. So you should have some internal and external communication systems inside this robot controller. And this robot controller is then further monitoring and control the mechanical structure of the robot. So that is what the key element of a robotic system. So apart from the manipulator, you need to have a controller which will be controlling the various motions or various functions of this manipulator. Now, the key element which we normally see from outside is the manipulator, and we call this as a robot. Certainly, this is one element of the robotic system. But this is the manipulator with which we will be doing a lot of operations, the functions. It's supposed to do movement of the various objects. And whenever you look at the construction of this manipulator, it's basically the series of the connected links over there with the various joints being placed at different locations. And these links are being connected through these joints to give a various relative motions. When we talk about the manipulator, now terminology should be very clear. We are not including an end effector into the manipulator. So we'll see that what is the end effector. So end effector will be an additional element of the robotic system. So whenever you have all these motion control actuators in the joints of this manipulator, they are being controlled by the robot controller. Now, this manipulator we normally call a robotic arm. So this is what the definition of the robotic manipulator as per the standard. The next element in the robotic system is the teach pendant actually. So this is one of the integrated element of the robotic system which you will be using to interact with the robot controller. So this teach pendant is connected with the robot controller, and through which you will be able to program the various functions of the robot. That is the obvious method of programming industrial robots, apart from the other technologies that we will be discussing. So you will be interacting, you will be monitoring the performance of the robot. You will be also controlling the various functions of robot through this teach pendant. As the terminology says, it's a pendant which will teach robot. Now, in the days when we deploy the industrial robots, we need to inform the robot about the various waypoints and the path that it's supposed to follow, or the various trajectory it's supposed to follow. So all that kind of a training of a robot to identify those coordinates in the real world environment, the workspace, we will be using this pendant to take the robot manually to those areas or those locations, and then training that or teaching the program with that current location. So that is how it is getting its name as a teaching pendant over here. It get connected to the robot control system, so that all the information is being exchanged between the pendant and the controller through this seamless communication that will happen. So it's a kind of the display or the HMI that you can have, or the human machine interface that you have, or you can visualize that's a display of your computing system So this teach pendant is performing the same functionality. So it will give you a visualization of the various activities that is happening within the robotic controller. And then at the same time, it also have some keypads as well as the touch screen through which you will be able to interact with the controller. Now comes the robotic end effector. When we talk about the manipulator, as I mentioned, the end effector is a separate element, and which is then get mounted onto the robotic manipulator. So in this case, we'll connect these devices on the robot wrist, and we call it an end of arm tooling. So once you have seen that manipulator arm, at the end of the arm, there is a wrist of the manipulator, and on which we will be mounting these robotic end effector. So the actual operations or actual functionality that we will be implementing or will be performing is with the help of various type of robotic end effectors. So there is an again very fascinating domain of robotic end effectors. Lot of companies or a lot of people are developing various types of end effectors to deal with the different type of objects with different shapes of the object. And the intention is basically to do the operations similar to the human wrist and the fingers actually. So you can see that there's a robotic finger also being developed. So 5-finger servo electric gripping hand is also being available these days, so that if you can mount this picking up different type of objects. So it can be in a self-centric gripper. It could be in a parallel gripper with a different shape and size of the fingers that will be integrated into the gripper. You can also have an angular gripper, and there are many more such grippers are available. So based on the functionality that you are going to perform with your robot, you need to select a suitable robotic end effector. Certainly, when we talk about the surgical applications in the medical robotics, the end effectors are very delicate elements to deal with. So because they are supposed to do operations on the real patient. So it's a very important element of the robotic system. And they are being connected because some of these are being operated electrically. So the all electrical actuations happen with the help of the controller itself. So controller will be controlling the motion of the various elements in these end effectors. And there are some of the end effectors which use to operate on the electro-pneumatics, so that we will be using the compressed air to do that operations, and with the help of the different valve controls. Then there's another important element which is not as such an integral part of the robots or the robotic hardware, but that is very much required in the robotic systems. These are the various visions and the sensor devices. So you will have these devices also placed around the robot or on top of the robot to perform the various functionalities which are required to visualize what is around the robot, what objects are placed around the robot, what is the environment around the robot. So robot has to build a perception about the environment before it start manipulating and operating the objects within that environment. So these sensors help in scanning the environment, also be able to detect the presence of the humans if they are entering into the robotic environment, which is not safe for the cooperation at the same time. But then these sensors are also very important element. You can map the whole environment in which robot's supposed to operate. So you can get an idea about the path planning of the motion of the end effector. At the same time, it will also be able to detect dynamically the real-time objects if they are coming within the environment. So it will map the environment. At the same time, it will also dynamically monitoring that environment. And the sensors that are suitable for such applications are the LiDAR, and then stereo cameras, and the various scanners, and even the millimeter wave radars are also being used these days. And so some of the sensors are being mounted onto the robot wrist also. So these are the force and torque sensors in the collaborative robots, and you can also add them into the articulated robots as well. Now let's take the discussion forward and try to understand what is the one axis of the motion control. So whenever we talk about the robots, it's basically completely dealing with the various axes of the motion control. And all such complex motions and then high precision, high speed motions are possible with a well coordinated multi-axis motion happening in the complex robots. Now, when you break down the various elements that are being involved in the robot motion control, certainly at the end is the actuator, but then there are a lot of to these actuators to move as per the desired motion. So we'll have the human machine interface through which you will be feeding the information to the robot for a desired motion. So this can be either given through a program that you can write into the robot controller. So there will be the sequential steps that you will be defining for the XY motion if it is in a Cartesian robot, or you can use the cylindrical coordinate systems. So you will be just defining those motions in this. Apart from that, there will be also be a possibility that you will be getting the environment mapped, and then you will be just defining the goal for the robot to reach. And then the controller will be doing all the planning for the robot actuator to move to that goal position. So all that interaction will happen through this human machine interface. In fact, the teach pendant that I have shown you is a kind of a human machine interface to the whole system. Now, after that, there comes the motion controller, which is a very important hardware inside the robot controller. So robot controller, as I was explaining, is a motion controller and the logic control that is being implemented together inside the robotic controller. Now, this motion controller is a very important piece, because whenever you are talking about the multi-axis robot, all such computations for the desired motion in all sort of closed loop control algorithm are to be implemented within this motion controller hardware. Now, once the human machine interface gives certain instructions for motion of the robot, this motion controller will interpret those instructions and convert that instruction into the electrical signal desired to move these actuators to achieve a desired position. Now, these motion controllers are again having an embedded controllers inside them. Microprocessors and microcontrollers are there into this motion controller. So your actuators, which are the servo motors, most of the cases in the industrial robots, we are using servo motors. These actuators will require a large power in terms of the higher voltage and current to deliver the right torque and the speed. And that cannot be directly possible with the motion controller. So we have the motion drives, which are being used as a power amplifier in between. So these drives will capture the signal from the motion controller, which is then digital signal being communicated to the drives. And these drives will further pass on the high voltage and the large current to these actuators to generate the required torque, and the motion will happen. Now, these actuators are not the endpoints where the load is operating. So you need to, and in fact, if you see any of the cut section of the industrial robot also, you will find that there are certain transmission mechanisms are being involved. So you need to convert this rotary motion sometimes into the linear motion, or sometimes you may need to reduce the speed of the motion and may need to transfer the motion from one joint to another joint. So all that can be possible with the help of these transmission mechanisms, which can be in the lead screw or belt pulley drive, or maybe the gearing that can be used. So this is another important element which are integrated inside the manipulator of the robot. Then comes the feedback, because all the robotic functionalities are being implemented in the closed loop format. So it means that robot should know where the end effector is moving and where it has been reached actually. So we'll have all the encoders along with the actuators embedded into the joints of the robots. So that will send the feedback, and then your motion controller will determine what is the actual position of the end effector, and then it will further issue the instruction to the drives for further motion possible. So that is the quick understanding of one axis of the motion control. So if you can see over here, one feedback mechanism, one transmission, and one actuator will be the one axis of the motion, and there will be one drive will be used to control that. But motion controller will be one only to control the multiple axes of the motion. So this motion controller may issue commands to the various drives. So with this understanding of the single axis motion and then multiple axis motion, let's try to explore the the movement of the robot in the space. So what sort of movements are desired? And this is the picture through which you can understand. There are the three linear motions which we try to achieve over here. And there are three rotary motions that are possible. So that is how you'll find that the 6 degree of freedom is the most commonly understood terminology in the industrial robots. So it decides how many number of joints you want to have in the robot. Because depending on the operation that you are going to perform with this robots, what kind of operations or what kind of motions are desired to perform that operations. So how many linear motions are required, how many rotary motions are required, that will form the number of axes of the robots to be decided. You need to move in the 3D space. And yaw. So that's how the 3 linear motions and then 3 rotational motion about this axis make the 6 degree of freedom for the robot to manipulate in the open space. Now with this, let's try to understand the how many axes does your robot need. We need to understand that also, because it's not a de facto that we need to go within a 6 degree of freedom always. Depending your application, the functionality, you may opt for as many axes of motion control, and certainly everything will lead to the cost of the robot. So many times when we think about the robot, we'll always think about the articulated robot, and then we always bounce by the cost of that kind of a robot, which end up from 20 to 30 lakh rupees of the cost of that robot. But we need to understand where exactly we want to put the robotic motion possible and what kind of functionality we would like to automate. So there we need to understand the various axes of the motion that are available. Single linear slide is a one axis robot, and sometimes whenever we want to just move an object from one position to another, and that is suffice to have an one axis of the motion control. So this is a one axis robot. Whenever it comes to the 2 axis of the motion control, where you will be like to move or manipulate within the 2-dimension space, so you can have either an XY space or maybe the XZ or YZ space. So you will be just operating within the plane. So many times the functionality just desired that you will be just picking up the object and then moving within the 2D space only. So there, I think this kind of an 2 axis of motion will be enough to perform the functionality. So you will see that there are transmission mechanisms coupled with the motors over here, and then certainly there will be a drive and the motion controller being involved over here. Then, so this is manipulating within the 2-dimensional space. Then there's a 3-axis robot, which is again a very important component in the industrial robotics. Most of the functionalities can be done with the 3-axis robot as well, because whenever you want to perform the drilling operations, the cutting operations, so because this is now able to move tool within or the end effector within the 3-dimensional space. So this 3-axis motion control is basically XYZ motion, and this is one important element of all set of CNC machines as well. So that these are also the robots, because we are trying to do a coordinated motion of the multiple axes together, and then certainly they are based on the Cartesian coordinate system, or sometimes you may also have 3-axis motion control in the cylindrical coordinate system as well. Then comes the kind of robot you use to visualize when we talk about the 4 axes of the motion. So in the previous case, we are not rotating the object. So most of the axes are the linear axis. So when we talk about the 4 axes of the robot, we will be talking about the rotational axis over here. And through that, we would like to move the robot in a 3-dimensional workspace. Apart from that movement in the 3-dimensional workspace, we would also like to rotate the wrist over here. And this kind of robots are very useful in the palletizing applications. So picking and placing the objects to form a pallet and a stack of the objects for the packaging. So that is the kind of application you will find for the 4-axis robot. Now here we need not to go for the 5th or 6th axis. I think 4 axis is good enough for palletizing. So these robots are having an application in that domain. So if you see that one axis of motion is the rotation about the base, and then the second axis of rotation is the rotation of this shoulder, and then there's a third axis of the rotation of this arm, and fourth axis is the rotation of the object basically through the wrist. So that is these are the four axes of motion in this robot. Now, when it comes to the 5 axis of the robot motion, now there's a fifth additional axis being added over here, which is the wrist axis now. So it's apart from the rotation of the object, we will also have this axis which will be rotating the wrist in up and down fashion. So rest of the 4 motions remain same. Only this fourth axis is being integrated into this 5 axis robot, so that you will be able to perform now 2 roll and pitch motions with this 5 axis robot. Now then comes the mostly used robot, that is in a 6 axis robot, which is able to perform all 3 axis linear motion as well as the 3 axis rotational motion possible with this 6 axis robot over here. And that this rotation of the arm is basically the additional motion that is being added over here. So which is the most flexible system that can perform all the operations that your human hand can do. So all sort of motions that human hand can do, this 6 axis robot can perform. So I think with this understanding of the multiple axes of the robot motion, there's a 7th axis of the robot is also available. In certain application, you need to apply the 7th axis of the motion. Now, what is that 7th axis? Because now we are able to manipulate the complete environment, which is a 3-dimensional environment, the way we are able to move our arm and wrist, and we can perform all the operations. Now, this 7th axis is basically moving the robot on a different linear axis. So it's a transporting the complete robot from one point to another point. It's just moving the robot from one place to another. It's just like moving yourself from one point to another point and then do the manipulation. So that is what the 7th axis of the robot is also integrated in some of the applications. So you can have a rail on which the whole platform along with the 6 axis motion, 6 axis robot is moving in that space. Now, everybody wants 6 axis robot. That is what we look forward. So what is unique and fascinating about this 6 axis robot, as we were discussing during the discussion about the various axes of the motion. So you can see that the motion about the base, the motion of the shoulder, the elbow, the wrist. So this 6 axis motion is able to give you all sort of linear and rotary motion to reach the space, the workspace in whatever fashion you look forward. And most of the manufacturing operations are requiring these kind of motions to happen. And this is now having a similarity with the human arm motion. So if you are going to perform the same operations which operator is supposed to do, then the 6 axis robot is the ideal choice. And we always prefer to have the 6 axis robot where the motion similar to the human arm to be replaced by this robotic arm. Now, one is this understanding of this axis of the motion. That is one part, to just classify the robots based on the different axes of the motion. But now another aspect of the industrial robotics, we need to understand are the various types of the robots which fits for the specific applications. Now, considering the flexibility and the speed of the motion, that is again a very important aspect over here. So whatever we have seen is the articulated arm that is then a serial manipulator. But many times we may also look forward for a different geometry of the robot for a different functionality. So let's try to understand those type of industrial robots. So we have Cartesian robots, which are similar to the 3-axis robot. So you will be moving the XYZ axis in a coordinated motion to perform certain operations. This is another robot, which is an SCARA robot. We'll see that will be able to move objects very fast in a predefined workspace. Then the articulated robots, what we have seen just now in form of the 4, 5, and 6 axes of motion. Another type of robot configuration is the Delta robot, which is a parallel manipulator. So you will see that there are some the functionality that can be done at a much faster speed from the Delta robots. And then we are recently looking forward for the collaborative robot. So I will just give you a quick glimpse of these different type of configurations of the robot suitable for different functionalities. So these Cartesian robots, as we have seen, are most common in the CNC machine kind of functionalities, or the 3D printers. Some of you might have seen 3D printers also. And there are certain gantry designs where you will be moving the object in a 3-dimensional space with the 3 Cartesian linear motions. So if you can see this, these are the kind of motions being possible with these manipulators. So if you see the 3 independent axes being now coordinated to move the object in 3-dimensional space. So these are all 3 linear motions. There is no rotary motion of the object being possible over here. So when we talk about the workpiece or the end effector that is being mounted onto this slide, which is placed in the z-axis. So rest of the xy motions is being generated, and z-axis is being now manipulating the object with the end effector. So these are the Cartesian robots. So you have seen that this is the simplest design that you can have, and then do some of the manufacturing operations with the help of this robot. The another robot, which is again very common in the fast pick and place functionalities used for the assembly and palletizing and some of the biomedical operations also. That is then a SCARA robot, which stands for the Selective Compliance Assembly Robot Arm. So if you can see that the kind of speed that you can achieve in this robot is marvelous. So if you can see here, the kind of motion it is being performing. So it's just picking and placing the object from one position to the another position, but it has a limited workspace. But some of the pick and place functionality can be very well achieved with the help of this SCARA robot. And this is also having a lot of industrial applications. Third one, articulated robot, you have already seen. It's used for most of the functionality in the industry. So if you can see here, the various motions possible with the help of this articulated arm. So you can do assembly, you can do arc welding, you can do different material handling, machine tending. So there are many applications which are possible because this has a complete all 6 degrees of freedom to perform all those functionalities. The extended workspace can also be there. So I think that's how you can understand the functionality of the articulated robot. Another type of robot is the Delta robot, which is a parallel robot with the 3 arms. So you can see that this is known for the high speed pick and place, mostly for the delicate products, for the food and pharmaceutical and the electronic hardware. So if you can see here, this is one of the Delta robot, which is now manipulating 3 parallel arms over here with the 3 servos, and then it will be able to perform quite a fast pick and place, and then this will be having a vacuum gripper to pick an object and placing into the another moving conveyor or for the packaging. The another domain of the robotics which is being evolved recently is the collaborative robots. Now, these collaborative robots are being designed to work in the same space where human can also operate. So there are various safety measures being followed over here. Here you can directly work along with the robots. For example, if you can see here, this person or this operator is now moving in a robotic arm to train the robotic arm to understand the coordinates where it's supposed to move. So you can just easily move this robot, and you can also work in the same space along with the robot. So there are certain features that are being implemented in this robot to make it safe to operate in the same environment as humans supposed to operate. So there are different type of collaborative robot systems are there. So one is the power and force limiting. So these robots have sensors which are sensing any sort of collision in the environment, and then they will immediately control the force and then may perform the stopping functions in the environment. So power and force detections are possible within the joints of these robots, and that is how they are being made to safe in the human environment. Another type of collaborative robot, which are not truly collaborative as such, in the sense the way you have seen the power and force limiting one are there. The another one are the safety monitored stops. So then you will be using some kind of an external sensing over here, and through which you will be only stopping the robot as soon as they detect the human being in the same workspace. So that is the another way of having in a safe work environment for the robots and the humans. So they are safety monitored stops. So these are the 4 types of collaborative environment being defined by this ISO standard 10218. The another is the speed control, so that as it found that human being is entered into the workspace at up to the certain region, it will just reduce the operate the robot at a reduced speed. And but as the person move into the another region which required a stop to happen, so it will just stop the robot in that region. And the last one is the hand guiding one, the way you have seen that this person is training the robot and manipulating the robot, and mainly it is used for teaching the robot the various motion it's supposed to do. So these are the various type of collaboration that are being possible with the human being. Now, when it comes to the industrial applications of the robots, I'm sure that you might be aware about these applications. So there's no end to any applications where you cannot deploy the robots. So there are various domains of the robotic applications. You can use it for the welding applications, where the precise control of the gap is required between the welding torch and the workpiece. You can use it for precise pick and place for performing the assembly operations. Handling of the different pieces and the work pieces, or the different shapes that can be done, and for movement from one place to the another place. It can also help in the logistics in transporting the objects from one place to the another in the shop floor. Another application that is emerging for the robotics is in the material removal. So you have seen that the CNC machines are there. But these days, the robots are also being deployed for removing the material, or sometimes maybe finishing the jobs in a better way. The deburring operations are being done. So various material removal can also be done with the end effector being in a kind of a spindle being used with a suitable tool over there. Another important domain is of the machine tending, because someone has to feed the job into the machine and take out the job out of this machine. So we normally have the person responsible for doing these operations. But unsafe. The another functionality is of the dispensing the controlled liquid there. Then we have the palletizing and packaging are the similar functionalities, where you will be stacking the objects together for the packaging is what is known as palletization. And you'll have the spot welding, which is doing to a great extent in the body shops of an automotive companies. So you see that there are enough functionalities to be performed by these industrial robots, and every functionality have certain design tweaking in the type of robots required, the kind of control system suitable for a particular application. So if you can look at this arc and spot welding applications, how the robots are being deployed. So now most of the time we will be using the hollow arm robot, so that we will be able to pass the gas as well as the wires through the robot for this welding torch that is to be integrated. So your end effector in this case is then a welding torch, and then it can be an setup like this is a spot welding equipment that is being added into the end effector, or you will be just having an arc welding torch to perform a continuous welding operations. And you will be able to perform this welding at a faster pace. So that is how you can see that in the body shop, this spot welding can be done with the help of arc and spot welding robots. Now, in this case, your robot controller is supposed to communicate with the welding equipment also. That's a very important part. So you have a additional functionality to be integrated into your robot controller. Now you will be having a welding controller, a welding power source. Now this power should be able to communicate with the robot controller. So in that way, so the synchronization between the motion as well as the welding operation should be done. So the kind of programming environment required to perform this functionality is something need to be understood, and we look forward for welding robot in the manufacturing. This is another example of the assembly operation, which is again based on the vision system is required for the assembly, so that robot will be able to identify the components and will be able to do a pick and place for assembling the complex components together, and it can do the automated assembly over here. The good thing in deploying the robot for assembly operation is that you will have a flexibility to change the sequence of assembly and the variety of the parts that are to be handled. So the scenarios when we are talking about the smart manufacturing, how the customized manufacturing or the assembly operation for a unique product can happen with the help of the robots. So that is the scenario we look forward. Robots are more suitable for the flexible assembly, but at the same time, it will also be used for performing the assembly operation for the mass production as well, because of the speed that it can do the assembly operation. Now, this is the one which I was mentioning while for the material processing. Now, the machining can also be done with the help of robots here. So either you will be taking the tool onto the robotic end effector, or you will be picking up the workpiece like this. So you will be holding the workpiece with the robot end effector, and then there are various tools around which the robot will be taking this job, and it can perform the various operations. So sometimes robot end effector will be holding the tool, and sometimes it will be holding the job, and there are various tools are being placed in the workspace to perform the operations. So these are some of the deburring operations that are being performed in this picture. So it can have tools like the laser plasma, water jet, or the cutting torches. It can also hold the various grinding, polishing, finishing kind of a tools in the end effector, and it can perform those operations. Another interesting one is the cutting operation that you can see over here. They are the performing operations for the flexible material cutting with the help of a water jet. So water jet is being used for cutting the flexible material, and these robots are having those water jet cutting tools as an end effector. They are performing the cutting operation on the cloth that is used for the interior of an automotive components or the automatic body. So there are various applications through which you will be doing various cutting operation, polishing operations by using the robots. Another interesting application where most of the companies are finding robots very useful are the machine tending applications. So you can have one single robot performing the it will be placing the finished part over here, and then removing the components from the machine and loading the components onto the machine. So this robot is responsible for loading and unloading the component into the machines. And one single robot can do such machine tending operation for the multiple CNC machines. So that is the way that you can reduce a lot of idle time in loading the parts. You can increase the utilization of the machine tools. The biggest advantage over here is that you can run your run your CNC machines along with the robotic machine tending arrangement for 24/7. You need not to have a limited timing hours for this kind of functionality, and the kind of scenarios where we cannot allow people to work in this environment similar to the current pandemic. These are the one of the suitable applications. Then your robot is being programmed to load all the raw parts, and then it will be able to perform the operations on the machines. So picking up the job and then loading into the machine, unloading from the machine, and then put into the bin. So all those functionalities can be done over here. Now, let me just give you a scenario for this machine tending application, because robotics are most commonly used for the machine tending applications. When we talk about the machining business, so it's completely driven by how many parts you are going to machine, and then it all depends on for how much time you will be keep this machine running. So if the machine is not running, you are not making money. As a businessman, if you are running in a machining business, then this is an important aspect. So the intent is that because my CNC machine is being designed to run 24/7, there's no issue. Only we need to look forward for someone to load the component into the machine and then unload the component and then run the suitable program. All that can be taken care of by the integration of the machine tending robot. Now, in such kind of a scenario, how robots can be used. So if you want to increase the profits, the revenue, certainly you need to make more parts. Now, when we are talking about making more parts, there are limitations to that. So how many parts you can make in a day, how many machines are available with you, how long it is going to take up a setup time on a machine, and how much time the part is taking on the machine, how much labor you have available for such scenarios. Many times you'll get to have more orders, but certainly you are limited with the kind of resources you can deploy over there. And how long you can keep your establishment open for the operation. So these are many factors which decides how much you can produce in the machining business. Now, when these are the limitations, that we can find out the possible solutions over here. So we look forward for a kind of an employee which is 100% loyal, never falls sick, willing to work for 24 hours a day without complaint, and then will be able to do as many changeovers possible and can do the monotonous repetitive things. So that is the ideal solution for these scenarios. Now, when we are looking forward for such ideal solution, and I am sure that all your minds are moving toward that, we look forward for an employee which sounds like a robot. That's how the ideal situation of the machine tending can be met with this robotic application. But the question comes, the robots are expensive. So when we are talking about use of robots in the manufacturing, and especially when we talk about deployment in the smart manufacturing environment, that's the first question always come over here. The robots are the expensive hardware. Now, in terms of the assessment of the cost that is being involved over here, we can see that the robots are not so easily affordable because we never do the right calculation for the economics of deployment of the robot in the setup. So in this case, if we just do a quick ballpark calculation for an entry-level employee to understand that how much the robot cost. And if you can see that that's a minimal I have taken over here, that's a yearly cost. And then if you see that robots are used to have a work life for 15 to 20 years once you buy a robot, and then you can easily amortize the robot cost over 5 years. And if I'm just looking forward for the amortization of the robot cost for the 5 years, the roughly cost of one robotic solutions will be coming 4 lakhs a year. This is just in a tentative calculations. Let's say the case for the machine tending only. So that if you compare that, the kind of advantage that you are getting over here is certainly an important point of understanding that I can easily recover the cost of investment over here. So it's not in a costly if you see in the long-term use of the robot for such applications. Now, it's not just a cost. We look forward because it's in a one-time investment that you can do in buying the hardware and the setting up the manufacturing setup. But second question with the manufacturing people is that it's difficult to program actually. So robots are hard to program because as we see that the CNC machines and the robots are not so easily acceptable by the MSMEs and the SMEs for their manufacturing facility because they need to hire an engineer who can do the programming for the robots. So this scenario is also gets simplified significantly these days. So with a minimal training, teaching a robot with the intuitive kind of a teach pendant, sometimes you can just take the robot and then move on a particular path to train it. So it's made quite simple to program the robots these days. So it's not just a high level or the kind of a programming that you need to do. It's a simple movement of the robotic arm, or with the help of a teach pendant, you can just move these axes to train the robot. That's a simple way to train the robot for a particular applications. It's almost like doing a jogging in a CNC mill. Now it's fine that the initial cost is being justified. The programming is possibly manageable easily by training an operator to do the robot programming. The next important question which will keep popping when we talk about the robotics is robots are taking our jobs. And that is what we always see, that robots are able to replace the human being. That is what the common scenario. Now let's try to understand that scenario. Now, when we are talking about expansion of the business, we look forward for more and more employees which are to be used and which are to be used to do this kind of functionality of the machine tending, like that we are discussing, the loading and unloading a machine for years. Now, sometimes it's difficult, and most of the factories are being operating this machine tending jobs with the help of contract employees. And many times you will find that someone is coming, someone is not coming today. So it's difficult to manage that kind of a workforce also. And moreover, that's a routine, repetitive job actually. So if I want to use someone for just a machine tending functionality, it's just a kind of an underutilization of the human resource. So in that sense, if you see that, if it is possible to have a machine tending robot, I can certainly expand the business in terms of more machine tools I can have, because I need to improve the productivity. Wherever I am having right now the kind of a maximum number of pieces that I can produce in a day, and certainly I would like to expand the business so I can increase the number of machine tools. And then you need to have more employees to use the robots, in the sense that you need to manage the machine tools, you need to manage the environment of the machine tools, and then the material handling required for the machine and the robots to operate. The most important part, as you will be producing more, you need more employees to sell and market the capabilities of your setup. So you will be increasing the manpower in a different domains, not in just tending operation. So later you realize that you have expanded your business once you have hired a robotic assistant. So robotic assistant is the one that is doing the tending jobs. So if you can see that in totality, if you see that one robot is not removing the human being, it rarely replaces a one operator, but it will add 6 or 7 more people into the same environment or into the factory space to make it more productive and more profitable. So replacing one operator with multiple additional functionality, which is more justified for the human resource utilization. I think that is the scenario we look forward for the robot. So this is just in a simple use case which justified some of the key aspects over here. Then comes the painting robots. That's another application which is giving a uniform painting consistency, throughput, less wastage. So robots can very well deployed, and they have a very well functionality in the industries for the painting applications. And then there are a lot of other functionalities to be performed before painting also. Sometimes the corrections, the finishing of the job, and then applying the multiple coatings before the actual painting. And this environment is completely filled with the chemical droplets. So I think that is not very safe for the human being to operate and do the painting. So this is one of the good replacement for those functionalities. And then industrial paint robots are another applications. This palletization is the another application where you need to pick and place the multiple goods from one point to another point, and then packaging them in a bigger pallet and stacking them on a pallet and placing them into the boxes and the cartons to do the packaging operations. So this is the another functionality where a single robot can handle the multiple type of packages. They are packaging within the different shapes and size on the form factors of the pallet. So that is how robots can perform this functionality with a little greater flexibility, and it takes a very limited space as compared to the conventional machinery for doing the packaging. So we did a good understanding about the basic nomenclature of the robot. We understand the various applications of the robot. Now it's a time to understand, if I am supposed to learn the robotics from that perspective, I need to build certain applications, what I'm supposed to have. So let's try to understand the components of the robotics implementation. So as I was explaining that in any of the manufacturing scenario, you'll always find there's a robot, but there are many accessories to be made available to make this robot functional. So brief understanding of the robotics is certainly important for manipulation of the robot. But apart from that, there are a lot of design activities being involved in this case. So the most important part we need to identify and we need to understand is the end effector over here. So what kind of grippers are to be used for what type of a product that you are going to pick and place with the help of this robot. So if you are doing an assembly operations for pick and place, these are some of the end effectors being shown over here. As I was mentioning, if you are doing a welding operation, the end effector will be the welding torch. If you are doing a spot welding, it's a spot welding gun. If you are doing a cutting operation, you will be using a spindle. So depending on the functionality of the robot, you need to design and understand the system that is going to be mounted onto the gripper or this end effector of this robot. So on the wrist of the manipulator. Then there's another important component which we need to identify when we talk about the single robot to perform multiple operations in the manufacturing cell. That these are the tool changers actually. So many times if you mount one type of a gripper onto the robot, then I cannot use this robot to handle the different parts. For example, I want to make this robot to pick up a prismatic component. At the same time, I would like to make this robot to pick up a cylindrical component. Unless you design a gripper in such a way that it can grip both the type of shapes. But apart from the shapes, it's also the functionality. Sometimes I want to use the robot for the screwing operation. Sometimes I would like to use the same operator for pick and place. So all these functionalities can only be possible on single robot once you are going for a tool changer. So there are various tool changing configurations are available. Sometimes it requires for the alignment also. So you need to have a compensation unit onto this. Sometimes robots supposed to handle the multiple pallets. So you need to have a multiple pallet changing systems over here. So this is the another important element which robotic system designer or anyone who is going to deploy the robotic application need to understand. So you have to break down the whole sequence of operation and tasks this robot supposed to do. And for these individual tasks, you need to identify the suitable end effectors. And then if I'm trying to use the robot for multiple operations, I need to go for some type of a tool changer that is to be deployed onto this robot. Now, once you understand the basic toolings over here, the grippers, the next important part is the programming environment. Means how you are going to make this robot program. Now, the scenarios in which the robots were deployed earlier is that it's the mass production environments where you are supposed to set the robot once and program the robot for one functionality, and then it will just do all these operations at a much higher speed and enable to perform those functionalities at a much higher speed. And it's a kind of a routine repetitive task the robot's supposed to do. So once you write a program, once you transfer the program into the robot controller, that program will keep on working for maybe the lakhs and 10 lakhs of the similar products being manufactured. But when we are talking about the more flexible environment, more customized manufacturing, understanding of this programming environment is also very important, because I need to change the robot programs very frequently in the system. So what kind of those programming environments are available? So understanding and selection of those programming environment is an important part over here. Then there's a selection of the suitable sensors in the manufacturing setup. Some of the sensors being mounted onto the robot, but most of the sensors are being placed into the industrial automation systems around the robot or the workspace where robot's supposed to operate. So selection of these sensors are also very important, and largely these robotic systems are operating in coordination with the automation systems around it. So whenever we talk about the welding operation or maybe the assembly operations, there are many more automated systems are being in operation and working in coordination with the robots. So how you will be integrating those functionality along with the robot control systems. So all that understanding will be required in this case. So when we talk about the robotics application or the implementation in manufacturing, it's not just limiting to the understanding the robot. It also required an understanding of a complete the ecosystem or the wider hardware and the software components to be used for development of such solutions. Now, when it comes to the programming the robotic system, so let's get in a quick context how the robotic systems can be programmed. So by default, most of you are familiar with this kind of an environment where in case of an industrial robotic system, you need to learn the robot specific programming languages. So most of these instructions are kind of in a pick and place and then contouring and coordinated interpolated motions that you will be writing instructions over here. So with the help of a teach pendant or offline programming environment, you will be able to write the codes like a CNC machine. So you will be getting trained to write these part programs as in the CNC machine. Same way you will be learning these robot specific syntaxes where you will be punching those syntax into the teach pendant to generate those motion commands. So it's a kind of an interactive environment where the controller, this pendant will give you an options to write these instructions. At the same time, you will also be getting the real-time coordinates by making the robot move to that particular coordinate, and then these coordinates are being recorded and added into the program. So that is one environment, and most of the learners and the operators are used to get fascinated with this robot programming learning. But that is only just forming on one part of the robotic programming understanding. And as you have seen that in the CNC machines, the machine operator used to know just simple part programming instructions. So this is the job which is not that interested. I look forward that apart from this programming environment, there are more programming environment which are required for develop and customized manufacturing scenarios. So another environment we look forward is in a more open source environment, which is an environment around the robot operating system, that is on ROS, and then the associated platform of a MOVEit that will be used to program the robot with the specified goals. So you may not be writing these sequential instructions as such over here. You will be just defining the waypoints or maybe the goals which robot supposed to achieve and the contour that it's supposed to follow. This environment will generate the suitable instructions for the robot to make those motions. So that is the environment we look forward, which is required to handle the customized manufacturing. Another programming environment which we need to understand is the offline programming environment with the help of an offline programming softwares. So whenever we do the programming of the robots and the multiple robots in the manufacturing environment, whether it's in a cell or maybe the similar environment, we need to generate the robot program before we transfer this program into the robot controllers. It's not in a real-time manipulation as we have done in the ROS and the MOVEit. It's basically generating the program for the robots without writing those specific instructions. And this robot offline programming software will be generating those programs to be transferred to the robot controller for the execution. Just like in a CAM software, we used to generate the part program in the CAM software, and finally this part program being downloaded into the machine controller for the execution. So same way, these robot offline programming softwares are being used for this functionality. The another important programming environment where we look forward the integration with the other industrial automation hardware is the kind of a robot PLC libraries and the interfacing of the robot PLCs together in the one environment. Because if I'm supposed to control the robot in a manufacturing cell where the other system are performing the functionality with the help of the programmable logic controller, that is the PLCs into the system, I need to either build a different programs for the PLC and the industrial robot and then make it functional, or I may be looking forward for one integrated environment to control the robot motion as well as the PLC functionalities. So this kind of a functional block integration with the PLC programming into the robotic motion control is, I think, one of the ideal solution for such functionalities. So you can see that these kind of programming environment and the development tools and systems are quite a little different from the research environment. So most of the research environment we used to learn Python and the C++ kind of a programming, so that we will be programming the controller at a low level actually, and then performing all those algorithms to run and then do these functionalities. Certainly they are good at the research level implementation and development of the certain algorithms. But industrial programming environment is basically kind of a rapid development of those programs and then deployment of the robot functionality to be done in the shortest possible time. And then it should be compatible with the other industrial automation environment. So these are some of the additional learning required by the people who look forward for the deployment of the robotics in the manufacturing. Now, when we talk about the open source robotics, these are the two common environment, or the one environment which is mostly learned by the robotics enthusiasts and then the researchers. So this platform is being developed as one of the academic platform for robotics learning. So robot operating system is the environment which is in a collaborative developed environment. It's a kind of a framework, not an operating, it's a framework where you will get all sort of libraries available to perform the robots, because robot motion control and the functionality requires certain algorithms to be developed. And if you try to do everything from the scratch, it will not be that fascinating. It will take a lot of time to do the research and develop those basic algorithms. So this collection of the libraries and then software tools over here give you a rapid opportunity to build the robotics projects. And it's all open source. That's the biggest advantage that people have realized with this development of this collaborative framework. And after the success of this ROS as an initial framework for the robot programming and being an open source, now there's a variant that is coming up. It's a ROS Industrial, which is again being an open source environment. But now more and more industrial robot manufacturers are adopting this platform. So because this ROS has a good strength in the robotics deployment and the development part, ROS Industrial is now giving the same interface which has been used to play around with the research robots, now being deployed for the industrial applications as well. So this ROS, which has been started as a research platform, now being available into the industrial domain also. And certainly not many industrial robots are now having a ROS support or ROS interface available. So this is another capability we look forward, that how ROS can also be integrated with the industrial robots. And there's one domain where we need to work for the manufacturing applications. This is another library which is in a MoveIt, which is suitable for most of the articulated robots. So I just want to run a quick video for you to understand the functionality of the MoveIt over here.
MoveIt, the premier open source robotics platform for building commercial manipulation applications. MoveIt combines advanced kinematics, motion planning, and collision checking capabilities to plan and execute optimal motions for any robot manipulator. MoveIt is robot agnostic and has been used by hundreds of large corporations, startups, and research labs to develop custom automation solutions. Because of its academic roots, it brings cutting-edge algorithms to reality. Integrate your robot to use MoveIt with the Setup Assistant, a simple user interface for configuring MoveIt to work in any robot environment. You provide the robot model in URDF format from your favorite CAD program, and the assistant takes care of the rest. After completing setup with the Setup Assistant, you can out-of-the-box start exploring MoveIt's capabilities in RViz using the easy-to-use motion planning user interface. Immediately test out various planning algorithms, workspace layouts, and optimality trade-offs. Planning scenes of obstacles and other environmental details can be created, saved, and loaded from file for easy development and testing. A robot's wheeled base can also be controlled by MoveIt, allowing for complete mobile manipulation solutions. You can control various subsystems of the robot, or all joints at once. The ability to preview an automatically generated path is available before executing it on your actual hardware. MoveIt constructs a 3D representation of its environment out of a combination of static and dynamic elements. Through perception system integrations such as the Octomap plugin, dynamic elements can be added to the robot's representation of the environment, ensuring that it will avoid unwanted collisions with its changing environment. MoveIt's hand-eye calibration package determines the transform between the camera and the end effector. Multiple images of a checkerboard pattern are taken at different poses and used for optimizing the calibration parameters. MoveIt can quickly choose grasped poses and excels at pick-and-place applications with random objects of varying size and orientation. MoveIt can interface with several machine learning grasp libraries, including GPD and DexNet. The MoveIt task constructor can plan arbitrarily complex tasks with multiple intermediate subtasks, ideal for pick-and-place applications. Tasks are broken down into basic planning stages that are solved in parallel to ensure a valid plan for the entire task. MoveIt Servo can be used for real-time teleoperation or tracking moving objects such as conveyor belt applications. It uses the inverse Jacobian method to provide collision-free paths for the robot at cycle times nearing 1 kHz. The benchmarking tools in MoveIt can be combined with the Planner Arena website to compare multiple motion planning algorithms to find the optimal one for your application. To learn more about MoveIt and its capabilities, check out MoveIt's extensive, easy-to-use tutorials, website, and developer community.
So that's a quick introduction about the MoveIt as such. It's an interesting platform which is open source, and now you can just look forward that how you can learn this environment and then deploy a much better applications and much faster deployment of the robotics application in manufacturing. So I think that's a way we look forward that how we would be learning those tools and what all to be learned to build any of the manufacturing implementations. So I will be quickly discussing with you the robotics use cases that we have developed. So we have just understood these environments, and then now we have built certain platforms in FSM at IIT Delhi to learn all these aspects of the robotics programming and the environment, the design process, how you will design those cells. So I will be just quickly sharing about these cells. So we have built a multi-process robotic cell for the assembly functionality. We are integrating a autonomous mobile robot with the collaborative robot in the manufacturing facility for material handling and inspection. And we are also working on a robotic welding cell. So these are some of the projects that we are doing right now at FSM. So let me give you a quick run through about these developments that we have done. Idea is to integrate some of these robots in our own cyber physical factory setup, which we are converting our central workshop into. We will be having a robotic welding cell as well as the AGV with a collaborative robot to perform different functionality with the machines. So when we talk about the this microproduction system, and we would like to deploy this collaborative robot and the AGV, we would like to do some pick and place functionality. So it's going to pick up the raw material by doing the tag scanning from the bins, and this AGV along with the collaborative robot now go and then place this workpiece into the machine. So it's a kind of a machine tending application that can be done with the help of similar platforms. Then once the prismatic as well as the cylindrical part is being fed into the machine, the another component is being taken for the grinding over here. Some of the component need the drilling of the hole, so then it is being taken to the another machine. And similarly, this finished part is being taken by the AGV for the measurements. And once the suitable measurements are being done on the raw parts that are being machined initially, being taken to the robotic welding cell. This is how the material handling being taken care of by this AGV along with the collaborative robot. And then this vision system with the collaborative robot is being used to inspect the parts at the various stages of the material handling. So finally, this kind of product is being produced after the welding, which is being further dispatched after the packaging. So this is the way the material handling can be deployed. So control of the various motions of this AGV, that is the automated guided vehicle, which is in a free navigating platform, along with the coordination with the collaborative robot is something is being now in integration at this CP factory. Sorry for this, I think the error should come early. So these are some of the functional testing that I would like to show you here for this AGV here. So in fact, if you can see here, this functionality of this AGV and the platform which is being evaluated and tested for the reach of the robot, how that is being performed with the help of a collaborative robot that can be evaluated and seen over here. But another important capability of this platform is the vision integration that you can see on the right hand side. This camera is being used to check the orientation of the component and then alignment of the end effector towards the same. So if you can see here, as the job is being aligned, the robot is also performing the functionality to orient the end effector towards the same. This is the platform that now we are deploying in the central workshop, which is a
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Akhilesh.
He's going to give a quick demonstration.
AMR, and it has an industrial manipulator on it. And this whole device is used to pick up and place objects in a factory, like the objects that are manufactured by various machines. So in this demo, I'll show you the robot autonomously moving to a particular point, and the industrial arm comes into action. It does its task, and the robot goes back to its position. So here is the demo. So here is the demo. So the robot now moves autonomously to a particular point. So the robot does a collaborative action over there, and again, the robot comes back to a particular point. So as this is a random point, so we just don't have any racks or as a storage location. So then our robot comes back to its location. And you can see the man here can be considered as an obstacle, and the robot automatically finds a path around that man, and it goes back to its position.
So you have seen that this is the way that AGV along with the collaborative robot can move inside the factory. The advantage that we are looking forward, how the programming of these two robotic platforms which are integrated together can be implemented. So good thing is that we are attempting this whole into the ROS only, because this AGV support the ROS environment. At the same time, we'll also be trying to integrate the ROS with the collaborative robot. Another is that it has a vision integrated into it, so you can deploy all the computer vision implementation for the inspection functionality, and this follows the industry safety standards. So that is how we are developing few more applications with these two integrated platforms put together. Now I'll give you a quick example of the assembly line that we have built. So this is the assembly stations for a component that has to be assembled over here, which is an electro-pneumatic valve. And it's supposed to handle, so these automation stations are supposed to handle the different shapes of the component. So if you go by this method, we will be having a 3-axis or the 4-axis Cartesian robots onto these individual machines as such, which will be performing the movements to pick and place this job, and then it will be the insertion of the spool inside it. After these machines assemble the component, then we need to put another station for the functional testing, and then for finally packaging and label printing. So this way, if you can see that we have used the multiple automation hardware over here. And for the 5 such stations, we need to implement more than 20 axes of the motion control, because each machine is having 3 or 4 axes of the motion control. In fact, one of the machine is having a 3 axis into 2, that is 6 axis of the motion being implemented in the Cartesian robot only. So in this case, you have to deal with the multiple industrial controller, because each machine is being programmed to operate on the 6 individual machine, the industrial PLC. So for 6 platforms, we need to go with the 6 industrial controllers. They have their own different HMIs over here. You have to deal with the multiple input and outputs in this case. So each machine will have its own programming environment in this case, many programs. So I'm just giving you a quick glimpse of the comparison of whenever you think about the assembly line or assembly system, which need to be more flexible, what could be the other possibility of deploying the robots in such environment. Because each controller has its own make of the PLC, then you will be programming that particular controller in their own environment. So you need to learn all those programming environment, and to make this whole assembly line in operation, you need to run multiple programs on these individual controllers to perform. Because this is in a conveyor based assembly line, so you have very limited flexibility in the sequence of the operations to be performed. And it occupies a large factory space. That's a one way that you will be having an assembly lines today. The another approach is that I can add another setup, which is a multi-process robotic cell in this setup, through which what I am able to realize now, I will be able to have one 6-axis motion control instead of having 20 axis of the motion control. One robotic controller, which I am supposed to program, and with the help of one HMI and one PLC, I will be able to control the complete programming environment for this cell, which is also capable of performing the same assembly operation. So one programming environment, one single program can made to execute the whole assembly line. And you have a flexibility because the assembly is not in sequence. It is basically done with the help of multiple stations being placed around it. And overall, it's in a very small footprint that as compared to the whole assembly line. So you'll see that if I follow a robotics automation approach, there's a lot of difference in terms of the amount of hardware, the amount of resources required to build an assembly line. So we designed this multi-process robotic cell that you can see over here. And then finally, this is the robotic cell after being manufactured. And then we are right now doing the programming of this robotic cell. So if you see inside, there's the multiple stations being used. So there's an incoming conveyor, there's an outgoing conveyor, because we want the raw material being coming in, the assembly operation being performed. Functional testing is done with the help of a testing jig, and then finally the packaged product will be coming out. So when I was mentioning about the tool changers and end effector, this is something you need to look into whenever we are thinking of deploying robotics for a manufacturing cell. This single robot, because we have used one single 6 degree of freedom robot over here, will be doing different functionality while assembling with the help of these tool changers. So we have one tool changer with this is a slave. Master is mounted onto the robotic arm, which is having a gripper on one side and then a drilling tool on the other, screwing mechanism on the other side. You can also use a tool changer for deploying in a sensor, so that the robot will pick up a sensor and then take it around to do some measurements and then reading the RFID tags over there. At the same time, we'll also deploy some the actuators onto this. So this is in a kind of a sub-assembly mounted onto this slave of a tool changer, which will be packaging the box. So you'll have vacuum gripping the actuator for flipping the box profiles, and then you will be seeing that this robot will be able to do all these functionalities with the help of a tool changer and different end effectors. When it comes to the implementation, what are the steps involved over here? So I will be just giving you a quick glimpse of that. You need to understand the specifications of the job that is to be performed, and then you need to ideate onto the same. You need to go for the electromechanical design of the whole robotic cell, not just the robot. All the assembly stations that I have shown you are also to be designed. You need to do the robot motion simulation in the same environment which is being designed for the other automation stations. And then finally, your whole setup get manufactured. You will do the electrical installation within that. You will be controlling the various motions of the robot with the PLC during the testing. Do the complete offline programming and then IO mapping between the PLC and the robot controller. Do the communication testing between the various automation hardware and the robot controller and the programming environment. And you will evaluate the functional testing with the various robot programs. Finally, you need to teach the coordinates inside the cell also, and that will happen with the robot teaching process. And finally, the whole cell will get commissioned and after the suitable testing. So these are the various steps that are to be performed whenever we talk about implementation of the robotic cell. So now, if we talk about the automation to be integrated along with the robot controller, so we have the HMI, the PLCs, as well as the IO link masters being integrated over here along with the robot controllers. This is just a communication architecture for the PLC and robot to communicate. Interesting way that we have programmed this, both the automation and the robotic environment, is with the help of these function blocks, which are an open motion function blocks available. So there's a standard of the PLC open, which has the function block. We have used those function blocks to implement the motion control of the robot with the help of the PLC program itself. So there are a lot of motion blocks available. I'm not going into the details because that require a separate deeper learning to understand the background of these motion blocks, how they can be programmed inside the PLC to control the robot motions. Some of the functions that are being used over here like this, so similar function blocks are being used in writing the program for the robot motion control also. And we can design the HMI which look like a teach pendant of the robot, so that you can control the cell operation with one single HMI, and where you can do the robot control as well as the control of the different automation stations. This is a quick run through simulation which I can show you how the robot functionality being simulated before we go for the manufacturing of a robotic cell. So the same robot which I was explaining to you, how it will be picking up the components coming onto the conveyor over here, and pick and place of the various elements from the conveyor. So you can see that the single robot working in an environment which is now suitable for performing the assembly operation of the different components. And it is using the different tool changers and end effectors over here. So if you can see here, it's a gripper as well as the screwing arrangement over here that you can visualize inside this. So most of the pick and place can be done with the help of this. Now, when it comes to the packaging, it will pick up a different tool changer, and it will. So this is another tool changer with a different arrangement of the actuators to package a box, because this robot is also responsible for finally packaging the complete product. So that you can see over here. Now this is a second end effector with the packaging arrangements on. So you can design all these setup. So it's not just a robot control that is important over here. You need to design each and every element inside this robotic cell. And finally, they are to be integrated with this common control environment and the platform. So this is the actual cell. We'll just give you a quick glimpse of this. So whatever simulation I have shown, you can see these operations are being performed.
It has fixed the tray. Which I have just showed you in this view. This is the testing station. I will just give a small demo of that also.
Fine. So with this, now we will be discussing about the welding cell quickly, because this is another project that we are doing with a multiple robot coordinated motion being done. Here, idea is to develop a flexible manufacturing cell, which can also be offered as a service. So it can be capable of doing the customized manufacturing. It also have its own storage and retrieval system. And once you load the data about the welding operation to be performed, it should be able to pick the right part and perform the welding operation, and then generate the suitable alerts and notification for the operator to collect the piece. So in this case, we have designed the whole system to integrate the master PLC with the two robot controllers, because here we are going to do the coordination between the two robots. We'll also be developing a system for the welding inspection that is to be integrated into the same environment. This is how the two robots are being performed placed into the platform. Now, this kind of a simulation need to be done before we actually design the system. So we need to check the collision of the robot with the robot, because we need to evaluate the whole workspace. We need to make the robot moving into the simulation and to check whether it is colliding with the controller or with the storage rack. These are to be avoided actually, and we will be able to do all these simulations beforehand while designing the workspace cell. We need to also check the reachability of the robot. Sometimes it may not, because it has a limited workspace, so it should be able to reach to all the locations which are required for performing the pick and place and the welding functionality. This is the way we can do the simulation of the welding operation of the two coordinated motion of the robots. And this is again the same top view that you can see, and the front view of the same simulations. So we need to see how the welding operation is being done on a particular component by using the two robots. So these kind of simulations are must for designing the cell and generating the part program for executing the job. Now, in this case, because we are handling a job for the welding, so design of the pallet fixture is again a very important. So there's a pallet on which you will be mounting the job to be welded. So for handling the various type of jobs, you need to design the pallet. You need to design a proper clamping arrangement of the job onto these fixtures. And along with the pallet changer, because that's how kind of a tool changer arrangement. So because you have a storage arrangement for multiple jobs and each pallet will be holding a different job to be welded here. So this pallet changer is to be designed, because we have designed this all pallet changer and the pallet together in our facility. So then they are also an important element of the robotic system design. The whole control system for the robotic welding cell also, because here additional thing we need to handle the welding power source also, apart from the handling of the two robot controller communication and the PLC and the HMI. These are some of the functionalities that are being implemented. So just to give you a quick glance of the welding operation and the kind of integration of the two robots being happened in this welding cell. I think I have just covered the quite a lot on the various scope of the robotics in the manufacturing. Now, where lies the opportunity to work in the robotics, and what type of opportunities are there to work with FSM and other entities at IIT Delhi? So here, I will just give you a quick glance of those possibilities, because I have already given you enough background on this. There's a possibility that you can join some of the training programs where we are giving you a hands-on learning. This is just an overview. I have just given you a complete overview about the awareness, those who are trying to learn the robotics, but more towards the industrial robotics, what they are supposed to learn, whether it's an ROS, MOVEit, or maybe the offline programming software or the design tools for the robot simulations. So there are a lot of training programs that we are conducting, and that I will let you know, even the learning program that we will be having next month. There are few sponsored research projects at FSM and IIT Delhi that we are working on. So you can join and work on some of these research projects. There are few industrial robotics projects where we will be working as a team at IIT Delhi. So you can also get an opportunity to work on these industrial robotics projects. So sponsored research may be more research oriented projects. When we talk about the industrial robotics project, they are more towards the development of the similar application that I have explained to you. There is certainly a good possibility of the robotics research. So those who are keen, they can take up the higher studies in the robotics. We also have certain programs at IIT Delhi, and maybe if you are coming up. We have possibility to build a lot of startups in the robotics, because it's an emerging area, and then you see that's an enough possibility, whether you are doing a new robotics system development, or you will also be integrating the robots in the various manufacturing scenarios, the various programming to be learned, various algorithms to be deployed on these robots. So there's an ample opportunities for the startups in the robotics. Now, I'll just quickly give you a quick idea about the second course that we will be conducting on the robotics, that we call it a learning course. It's a master class level 2. We have already conducted these courses, which are of 32 hours of duration on the smart manufacturing, industrial IoT, AR, machine learning is going on right now. So next month we have this paid course. This is a paid program. So it's at a FSM 205 robotics implement. Whatever you have seen in today's session, we will be taking you a little deeper on these technologies and the understanding of the fundamentals, as well as to do an experimentation with these platforms also. So that is what we are looking forward. Those who are interested can join this program in July. It's basically a live session plus e-learning module plus lab sessions also being conducted on these software platforms that are being used for designing and programming the robots. And it's also have a project to be done in the 10 hours. So that's all for today's session. I